Quest to Succeed. Chapter 33. Jay noticed that there was a division of labor in the United Kingdom based on color or race. The black people worked in transport and the National Health Service as nurses, porters, and in the kitchen. There were very few Indian nurses. Indian doctors, however, counted for 14% of all doctors and surgeons in the United Kingdom, a greater proportion than their population in Britain would suggest. In research and technical department, more Asians, particularly women, could be found. It looked as if the white people still held the senior positions. If the British society became multicultural in the real sense of the term, it would be easy for people to manifest themselves and make progress. Otherwise, a struggle for advancement and existence would continue. Jay attended a conference which considered multiculturalism and the teaching of multicultural education in English schools. The aim was to introduce Black and Asian culture, literature, and other aspects of education in school and college curriculum. He maintained that non-white people were in Britain because of the empire and the colonies and her relations with India, Africa, and the West Indies. After the Second World War, there was a need for doctors, nurses, and transport workers in big cities of Britain. It was considered that the families of new immigrants who looked different, had diverse demands, should feel comfortable and be able to assimilate in their new country. Their children should not feel alienated. They should know their own culture, history, and literature of which they should be proud. They should not feel that there was still white domination through education system and subject curriculum, which would impede their intellectual and social advancement. Everyone recognized that Black and Asian writers should be studied along with the English writers. The role of trade unions, views of political parties, and the inclusion of ethnic people in social and political activities should be examined. Small businesses should be investigated along with big corporations and big trades. The teachers should interview local business people and residents, many of whom had come from South Asia and the West Indies. Their contribution should be recognized. It would benefit the whole community and the entire country. Jay authored a report about the discussions on multiculturalism. He sent a copy to the headmaster, a copy to the inspector of schools at the Borough Education Department. He presented a seminar to his colleagues at the school. There was rich literature available by the Afro-Asian and Caribbean authors and writers. The Afro-Asian Caribbean Society invited him to talk about the new project and conduct a seminar at Leicester as well as in London. He was keen to advertise this new program. He agreed to go to places wherever he was invited to. He not only talked about the Black and Asian writers, but he also emphasized that people from these communities had actively participated in politics, trade unions, health services, social services, football, tennis, and other sports, the central and local government administration, public and private sectors of the economy. Schools, colleges, and universities had persons from the minority groups and communities. There was hardly any field where people from racially visible communities were not employed. They brought new culture to Britain, which had enriched the nation economically as well as culturally. Practical examples exist. The festival of Diwali had become a popular event in Britain. It was celebrated in the Houses of Parliament, at the Trafalgar Square, and other places. The Carnival Festival, originally started by the Caribbean community, had become a yearly event for everyone in London. It had gained international importance and recognition. In the month of August, people from many European countries come to watch the procession in London and to enjoy the variety of food. The School of African and Oriental Studies appointed Jay, a visiting fellow in the extramural department, to develop multicultural education, which would be a popular and useful subject. It would benefit minority groups and help them to gain good education. He ran classes for all to promote multicultural education and inform of the necessity for such courses. Questions were often asked about the method of informing, of the available facilities, and how could they be encouraged to study relevant subjects and find good employment to suit their interests and talents. The Black students were still lagging in employment and professions. even though there had been an equal opportunities policy for many decades. An educational qualification was a medium for progression and to elevate people socially and economically. Other things would follow. He argued that access to education should be unlimited, regardless of age, race, gender, disability, or other needs. There was a requirement to provide information about such courses. It could be channeled by sending leaflets to households, youth centers, libraries, job centers, community groups, and by advertising in local Black and Asian newspapers and periodicals. The education institutions should identify areas where improvement could be made. Students' participation on different courses ought to be monitored. These courses must sustain relevance for employment. Students should be encouraged to study for professional jobs like accountancy, engineering, architecture, nursing management, and medical education. The education system should be geared towards practical side of employment. The students should be guided towards these courses. It was an important method of promoting equal opportunities for all. The colleges and universities would play their role in creating a chance for Black and Asian young people. Jay maintained that the staff of these institutions would have to take practical steps to increase the number of Black and Asian students on work-related courses and progression to higher-level courses and employment. It was essential to identify good practice in marketing, recruitment, and continuation strategies to attract a higher number of Black and Asian students in order to accomplish these objectives. Vocational courses could be relevant and beneficial for such groups. Both employers' and students' needs should be considered and met. Conducive to making progress in such areas, Jay organized seminars for staff in colleges and departments. He argued that colleges could be asked to maintain statistics of number of students entering courses, making progress, and gaining employment in different areas. Employers' contribution was essential by affording finance and furnishing employment in their organizations. People in parts of Britain were against multiculturalism. They wanted to maintain one culture and argued that the Black and Asian youth should conform to the existing British way of education and system. Jay expressed the view that it would restrict progress and identity of Asian and Black youngsters. It could lead to alienation rather than to mingle by accepting a different culture. He suggested that special courses should be designed which should be targeted to these communities. There was a need for access to mathematics and science to bring them to the level of entry required for degree courses. Access to accounting and banking, along with the access to law and the access to built environment, courses should be brought into the system. It was realized that more access courses were needed in vocational areas like construction and engineering, where Black people were underrepresented. These courses could also be used as feeder routes to mainstream studies. The itinerary, like leisure and recreation, could be taught at colleges. Efforts should be made to help Black students in achieving their potential by encouraging them to acquire adequate education, which would help them to obtain a right employment. It was felt that the equal opportunities perspective and the issues of racism and gender should be included in the information provided to students and in the curriculum. Adequate resourcing and staffing were required to achieve these objectives. Teachers should be provided enough time to review the teaching areas and to prepare their teaching material. Good education should be provided to all. Jay suggested that extracurricular activities fostered self-confidence and sociability. Students should be trained to meet the demand of business organizations. Some entrepreneurs provided on-the-job training. Jay discovered that several courses had links with local businesses. They organized regular meetings to discuss the course curriculum. These links would help students to find employment at the end of their course. The employer-led programs provided a guaranteed assignment which would benefit both the employers and the students. It ensured that after completing their syllabus, students would have jobs and employers would have decent quality workforce. The careers advice and counseling were important aspects in the education system. Deliberating could reduce the dropout rate and foster successful completion of courses. Work experience during studies could assist students in making decisions about their future education and employment plans. Monitoring of progression was inevitable for institutions to provide relevant information to future students. Undergraduates, however, faced financial difficulties. Jay suggested that there should be a provision for bursary to pay their rent, buy books, and other expenses. They could be inspired to find part-time employment over the weekend or in the evenings. It was important to guide youngsters to ensure that their education did not suffer. They should plan to balance their work and studies. It was essential to investigate and foster the interests of Black and Asian students who could have equal opportunity in education and employment and continue to make progress. With improved education standards, they would find good housing and other facilities in order to live a better life than they would have lived without such a provision and guidance.